But when I see the message right
Right.
there, what's up, Kristen? How you doing today?
Well, I'm good. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, me too. I was in the car on the way here, just like, okay, I hope I make it. Otherwise, I'm gonna do the show from the car. It'll be good from the car. It'd be funny, because I wouldn't come up to the room if I did it from the car. I would just get out, and then there's like a patch of grass by the building I'm in, and so I was just gonna lay in the grass the whole time. So maybe I do a show from there at some point.
Oh yeah, we should do that outdoor set, right? Like touching
Ooh,
grass.
okay, banger touching grass. I like that a
Yeah.
lot, actually. What's up,
Yeah.
Nona? Thanks for dropping in. Law,
All
you
right. I
took
took control of
control
my
of thumbs? I
and
don't know what
raced
that
here as
sentence
quick as
means.
I could.
I
Well,
love
like
that.
you're quickly racing to press the button.
What is like the most you've ever used your thumbs?
When I had my Game Boy, and then I was
Okay.
really into playing Super Mario World 2 to the point where
Okay.
the button, like the right button, going right was permanently depressed because I was pressing it. Like in order to maximize
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
speed,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just put it down. So I had this
Yeah.
like busted Game Boy that where the character is always going right. How about you?
So I'm trying to think. So like the acute memory that I have. What's up, Adrian? What's up, James? The acute memory that I have of a game moment like that
Hmm.
was a game called Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube. Did you ever play that?
No, I haven't. The only
So
way I
it's
see Star Fox is on Smash Brothers.
the okay. So you haven't played Star Fox 64? I would recommend that. You can get an emulator for your computer and you could play it
Oh,
just from where you're at. You can probably get a Star Fox Adventure on it, but I don't recommend it. It's like it was good when I was like a kid, and like
hmm,
I assume it doesn't hold up. And by
right.
good, I mean it is a bunch of like anthropomorphic animal characters and dinosaurs. And so like for a kid, that's awesome. Anyway, so there's this one level in it where you're in like the Velociraptor temple. I can't remember like the name of the actual temple. And you have to
Hmm.
do the button mashing quick
Yeah.
time event. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I could not for the life of me beat this quick time event. And like as a kid who prided himself on being like good at games, it was
Uh-huh.
torture. And
Yeah, yeah.
so I back in the day I went on do you remember the Game Facts forums?
Of course. I
So
grew
so
up
I
on
went
game packs and plain text guides.
dude, the ASCII art in those guides,
We gotta go
I'm
back. We gotta go back. Actually, I was trying to make ASCII art this morning with the word control, and what really sucks about Warpcast is that it doesn't display like fixed width stuff
it's not
really
one to
well.
one. No.
Yeah.
The like I get why they don't do that, but it does suck. But
Yeah.
so I couldn't beat this QuickTime event, and so I looked up on GameFAQs how to do it,
Mhm.
and there was a technique called the spoon technique. And the
Uh,
spoon technique, you like get a metal spoon and you try to like spin it around. And so after my thumbs had been permanently damaged, I like, did the spoon technique and I still couldn't beat it. And
well, we have
so,
more folks who joined us. We've got
ooh,
Experiment, we've
Tara
got
Mikado.
Mikado,
Ooh,
Tara, Bubbles.
Gwyn.
Thank you for joining us. Yes, and yeah, James, I had a haircut. Thanks. Is it Bubbles who mentioned? Oh no, I mentioned I had a haircut at some point. Yes.
Actually,
Um. Mhm.
Gwyn, let us know if I saw a cast about an edible. Let me know if that edible was today and how you're feeling.
Oh
And I'll get the
yeah, that was
bangers
like
up while
really
you're
good
talking to chat.
Jersey art. Oh, hi, Hen as well. Thanks for joining us. Gosh, I'm glad that our usual viewers are able to join us, especially with
Same.
the changes that have happened at a certain place on the internet where we hang out.
I mean, it's a little chaotic right now, but like chaotic in absence, if that makes sense. Like there's
Mm,
stuff happening and I can feel like stuff is happening in places, but I can't find where the things are happening.
yeah.
Do you feel that way?
Oh, 100%. I feel like I'm on a whole other planet, but
Yeah, it's
that's
like an
okay.
we'll talk
We
about it.
shall stay on and talk about bangers that we can
We'll
actually see.
yap about it. Okay. So first banger here, classic horse facts banger. My family is dying, and it is a picture from the top of a box holding two candles from our friend Sam at Humankind Candles. Go check out Sam's candles. Seymour.tv/humankind. I don't know what her domain is, or their domain is.
It's humankind.place.
Humankind.place. Go to that one too. I love this meme. Have you ever seen the "My family is dying" meme?
No, and then I didn't get this one, and then but then I was like, I didn't understand the meme, and I was too afraid to ask. So it is good that you're gonna explain it.
So it's a deep cut.
Hmm.
So there's an old, I think, Twitter copy pasta where basically someone was asking like, "Help me budget this," and it's
Hmm.
like normal item X, phone bill $50, TV subscription $100, you know. I forget what the original joke was, but it was something goofy, like macaroni and cheese, $10,000. Please, somebody help me budget this. My
Mm.
family is dying was like the end of this. And so the joke is that Horsefax is spending all of his money on these candles.
Ah.
And so like spending all
And
your money on,
what is the diptyque? They kicked me out of
I don't
diptyque
know.
for
I
saying
was
this too much. What is
I was
that?
I was going to Google that later. I don't want to
Okay,
Google
okay.
it
Oh,
now
you
because
see,
I don't know.
for the first time on stream, Cameron didn't get a joke.
So here's what I think it is. I think it's some sort of luxury goods store, but I'm not sure. So
Oh, okay. Finally, now
yeah,
you understand my world.
that's what I think is happening there.
Okay,
But who
okay.
knows?
Chat, if any of you know what a diptyque is,
Yeah,
please
Sam
let us
apparently knows, and if Sam shows up
Yeah,
because
maybe
they're our
anyone can
friend,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Kazi. I see ya. That's Wolf of
So
Bay Street.
there's two threads of control in this meme. Do you
Mm.
like what are the ones that you think I'm thinking of?
I can't even think of one thread, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, let's go with the obvious one.
Mhm.
Financial control. Horsefax doesn't have control over his impulses to purchase stuff. And
Ah.
and so like there's an aspect of like, okay, how much of like the things that you do and put out into the wild in terms of like purchasing stuff, how
Mhm.
much is that influenced by like your self-control? So I
Mm.
think that's an interesting thing to just think about, and it's fun to make jokes about. The other aspect of control is a little bit more subtle, but it's the visual is entirely driven by Sam's control over how they want people to experience their packaging.
Mm.
And so like in here, there's like a couple visually really interesting things. And obviously I think Horsefax, made it look a little bit nicer for the picture. But so Sam intentionally packaged these, so that the label is facing outward. Always a good choice for packaging design.
Oh, I didn't even notice that subtlety.
Yeah. You got
Oh.
these packing peanuts, which are actually packing stars, which are really cute.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
and also on trend.
Mhm,
And they made a post about that a little bit a while ago about like deciding to do those.
mhm,
So that's a good one to look up. And then the other piece, which is like a little bit less of a control thing, but Sam has really focused on sustainability with their brand. And so I think that plays into the cardboard of the original box that it comes into. And so
mhm,
it's like visually nice to have the cardboard around the outside and then the cardboard in the box actually framing the label separate from
mhm,
the stars.
mhm.
I love those details. Like as like a founder and builder of stuff, I really really appreciate those small things. Like, and I think every day I appreciate that stuff a little bit more because it's so hard to make anything in the world. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And I feel like we're making UGC for Sam right now, which
Yeah,
is user generated content, a new word for me.
yeah. The I have so many thoughts on UGC. I think we could do a whole episode on UGC and have a good time about it.
Oh, okay. I feel like this word just suddenly started popping up everywhere. And I feel like it's a new word to describe existing user behavior and things that they do.
It's a mutation word because what it was originally kind of like describing was the behavior of people receiving products and
Mhm,
then doing like written like or visual or video reviews about them.
mhm,
uh, and it's actually like a really interesting cottage industry on the internet where like you're not supposed to pay people for UGC without saying that you're paying them to do it. That there's like an
mhm.
FTC regulation, and that is out the window. That's just gone. You know what I mean?
Oh.
I mean, like the regulation isn't gone. Just the internet has outstripped any regulatory body's ability to regulate it.
Right, right. That's totally true.
And Gwyn is right. The UGC like wave today does come from TikTok, because guess what? How do people buy stuff on TikTok? Influencers make like a TikTok about, a bunch of random stuff. And, I'm like, I'm not gonna say guilty, because I don't think you should feel guilty about like buying stuff that you want to buy, but I buy stuff from that kind of that advertising as well.
You
All right,
do?
let's.
Oh, wait,
yeah.
Pause on that.
I don't buy anything serious.
Influencer to buy. Oh, I know. I think I know what it is, but you got to tell the audience what you bought.
So I'm not in my home desk right now, but I would show you. So I've bought multiple shirts and stuff from TikTok because I think they're funny. Like
they're like tissue paper thin, right?
Oh yeah, no, terrible quality. I would never actually like. So okay, so there's a couple different classes of. Let me lock in for this one. All right, so there's a couple different classes of things that I am okay with buying from TikTok. Anything that I genuinely care about, I'm not going to buy from TikTok because it's going to be garbage. It's just not going to meet the quality standards that like I want at this stage in my life, right? Like that said, I will get things that I think are bits, like good bits. One of the things that I bought and I made a post about was a little pen holder that's just like the rave crab that holds the pen.
Yeah.
It was $2, and of course, what they do is they get you with like a $2 thing, but if you get like $15 worth of stuff, you get free shipping. So I bought like some keychains and crap like that. Actually, BRB.
While Cameron is digging that stuff up, I want to say hi to Angel and Hodl CEO and Huggle Monster.
Woo! All right, so I have two things that I got from TikTok on my keychain right now. So I'm gonna go with the one that I think is much more targeted at men, but maybe not. This one right here. It's called the Mighty Bar. Sponsor us, Mighty Bar. This is $15. It's a pry bar. It's like a little mini pry bar, and it is really, really hard to mess up a chunk of metal. This is what I prefer to use. And previously, when I was like in the army, what I preferred to use instead of like knives and stuff to open things, because when you struggle with a knife to open stuff, you end up kind of jamming it, and it's like dangerous to have an edge that kind of like has a risk of flaring out.
Okay, so like an Amazon box opening device.
Yes. Yeah. So it opens boxes very well. But like the beauty of the pry bar, it's a simple wedge. If you remember your simple machines, the simple wedge is so useful in a variety of circumstances, but mostly just for opening things or getting things apart or just like cutting stuff when I don't want to use a sharp edge. I didn't feel great about buying it because I was like, all right, I just got by a stupid fucking ad, but it was right. It was good. I very much enjoy this. And
do you clean your toenails with it?
No, I'm not a psycho. Also that is way like that's way too torture war crimes adjacent for my blood, Kristen.
Oh, okay.
All right, but so here's the second thing before we get into the next banger.
It's like, always a reference to war crimes.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
My mind is full of the things that it's full of, but here is the second thing that I buy.
Oh, okay.
Cute little keychain. And so this was a Etsy creator. I'm gonna have to find it. Oh, Gwyn, that is a good idea. The pry bar might be good for the long nails. But so this
Thanks
is
for
Rue.
Rescuing me. Gosh.
And then this is Remy. You see the spot on Remy's head? There's Rue.
So did it already come like that, or was it did you?
So we sent in a picture of both of them, and then we got like, there was some options in there. It was kind of like, hey, you can select different body types and stuff like that. And they got, what I appreciated about it was it wasn't perfect in the mock-up, but when we gave them the picture, I think that there's like a hand component to it, because I think they get the base design and then they adapt it to the plastic that they like printed on. And the artist did do some customization with like the dot on Remy's head. Chemzite over on Twitch. Let's see if you're a bot or not. Thank you for joining the show.
That is a really rude way of greeting someone. Hello.
I'm so sorry.
We're a little traumatized, so we really appreciate you joining us, even if you are a bot.
Loving your stream. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please don't let the ad be incoming next because it's gonna
Yeah.
be hurting
Yeah.
my heart. All right, let's get back to
Alright,
these bangers here. Okay, so this one's long, but in short, Dan, founder of Merkle Manufactory, Farcaster, and Warpcast. One thing I was wrong about over the last few years: sign-up costs would greatly reduce spam. And then he goes into explain like other things about that.
Mhm.
Was this surprising to you, Kristen? Did you see this one ahead of time?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Oh,
Was it
I
surprising to you?
that spam didn't sorry, that sign-up cost did not reduce spam.
Yes.
Uh, I think somewhat. I think I'm often surprised by the expected value of an account on Farcaster. The reason why spammers make these accounts to sell off in the future,
Yeah.
but I guess it makes sense because our platform's decentralized, it makes it so easy to sell off an account. Whereas with the other apps, it's still a little bit of a hurdle.
Yeah.
So
My previous startup was deep in the internet spam game, also adjacent to UGC, also adjacent to all this stuff that we've talked about. It's interesting because the math around botted accounts has dramatically changed in the past few years.
Yeah.
Like there are people that make accounts to sell them later. That's kind of like the old social media model of like accrue 10,000 followers, sell that to somebody, blah, blah, blah. With crypto crap, you have you basically have added an infinite upside incentive,
right,
for any potential, not even bad actors, just like actors that aren't what I call pro-social. Like pro-social is like making a community better. Like any non-pro-social actor gets to effectively buy a lottery ticket for, in this case, $5, because if there's any amount of like airdrop or anything like that, it is a unfortunate side effect that they might get some of that, and it's probably going to be worth more than $5 at some point. So the math just doesn't work.
So speaking of
speaking of botted accounts,
yeah, okay, so this unfortunately indicates that our Twitch viewer is a bot, because we've noticed that they always start to immediately offer to add people on Discord, and I think that's where
they're trying to get our personal info, or click a link or some other thing to just ruin our lives, which is fine. This is the future. Grandparents and parents and us, we're all cooked. I got a meme that I meant to send you. I'll bring it up later, but actually I'm gonna post it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and hi Saint, thanks for joining us.
I love old memes of Frodo.
I didn't see this one beforehand. Oops. Now I'm slowly reading it. So my face.
How can you read it?
Long, cold mental burden of selecting a channel is over, and I'm free to cast at my leisure into the home feed again.
Yeah.
Oh, is that how everyone else feels?
I think that there is, I mean, like, clearly some people feel that way. First of all, I'm surprised that you could read it past those dreamy blue eyes, but the feeling here is interesting because it's an aspect of control that I think a lot of people neglect. Do you know what I mean?
That you could have done this leisurely casting to your home feed the whole time.
So I think that there's that aspect of it, but I think this is about control in the sense that he has lost control. Ooh, Fremon, that's a good tip. Fremon switched to Twitch because they can't minimize on YouTube. Didn't know that. Good to know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and James, so that's what comes to on screen. We control and pick them. Yeah. And it's also a little tricky. Like if I can, if we have infinite time, I would address every single comment, but we do have to weave them in between.
Kristen's nicer than me. I'm only going to address comments that I think are funny or thoughtful or insightful.
Well, James, you were thoughtful and insightful.
That's true.
But yeah, like, what are your thoughts on this?
This is about losing control being a good thing. And I think that like as a as a recovering control freak, I think that's really important to remember, where like if you take aspects of your life, not all of them, obviously you don't want to have no control over your life, but if you take some aspects of your life and like release control, give up control, it can make your life better. And that's really hard for someone who likes moving all the pieces and hitting all the corners perfectly square. Like that's tough for me to accept sometimes.
I feel like it's like if I say anything, it's pot calling kettle black. So I'm just like, I'm a little frozen.
I it's we'll get into it. All right. Thank you, Jack, for posting a classic. All right. So this is from Timber, which that's their username because Warpcast moved everything around. Timber.
Oh.
Obligatory pre-trip gear check. California to I don't know what this TH stands for.
I fall for a good knolling pick.
Was that what this is called? That's a word I didn't know. Explain that.
It's named after someone whose last name is Knoll. So when you arrange all your stuff in this like nice way and take a social media picture, it's called knolling.
No, man. Okay, new goal. Do something so well that the internet names a phenomenon after you. That's what I'm excited to do.
Well, I don't know. So back when I did powerlift, Kristen Lord.
Kristen moves weight, y'all. Don't sleep on Kristen.
Like essentially, have you ever heard like pulling a Homer? You remember like you were in The Simpsons where they were it was called pulling Homer. So whenever someone steps on a plate or bangs the head against a bar, that's pulling a Kristen.
Dope. That's really funny.
So I did have something named after me, but it wasn't something I was particularly proud of.
So is it fair to say that you are perhaps the first self-concussing machine?
Correct. So I would say proprioception is not my forte, let's just say. So
that's
that's one of those universal wishes kind of thing where like you wish for something to be named after you. I have to be higher than a comet. You wish for something to be named after you, and then it'll be something really dumb. Or like I wish to be on Wikipedia, and it'll be like, oh, something terrible happened to you. So be careful.
Yeah. What is it? What's the community? The monkey's paw. That's what it is.
Yeah, monkey's paw. Oh, it happens to me all the time.
Yeah. I do think about the monkey's paw version of some of my wishes, but in this case, I think I'm going to do it because I think I'm going to hold true. And then maybe one day the chat will have enough power to ruin my life with naming something after me.
All right. So look out for a chance to say pulling a Cameron.
All right. I like this because, well, one, there's Tabasco sauce in it, which I just think is funny to travel with, but perfectly reasonable if you've done a good amount of traveling. This is such a like false representation of what traveling feels like to me. Or you know what I mean? Like
it's the idealized travel.
It's not even like the idealized to me. It's like I have never gone anywhere and unpacked my bag, and this is how it's like been unpacked, except for when you do layouts in the military. And so like you do gear layouts in the military like this, not as aesthetically, of course, but like organized in a way that it's like very easy to check if 100 people have all the crap that they're supposed to have. There's also this like one day we'll talk about the Army responsibility delegation culture because it's tied up with money in that like there's versions of being an officer. So like when you're an officer, you have to sign for all of the equipment that your unit has. And so does the individual. But like the officer, like I was signed for the 4 Bradleys in my platoon, which was like, they were $5 million a pop. And so there's a version of my life where we like break a Bradley and I owe $5 million, basically.
Yeah, and you have an essay about this.
Yeah. And so like, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to like push all of that responsibility to the person that's closest to that thing. But you still like you have fully lost the element of control in that process, yet you're still on the hook for it, which is kind of a theme in Control, which I find really interesting.
Oof, yeah. And while you pull the next one, I like this story from Curious Hermit. I want enough money to buy land. Also
Same.
me, got hit by a truck and broke my leg, and it'll also be enough money to buy land.
I mean,
Yes.
I
Well, I'm glad you're better and you kept the land, I'm assuming. So,
I don't know if there's anyone. I don't know if there's anyone in Farcaster as like good at figuring it out as Gwyn.
yeah. And
All right.
welcome, Yenny Riley.
All right, and we got our last banger here before we dive into a deep discussion on control. This is from Brian Johnson. I'm pretty sure it's a cross post, so I don't love it. Like, I don't love it on its face, but I think one, selfishly, it's very visually interesting, which is always good for a banger, especially on a show that we want people to engage with. But two, it's an interesting commentary about like one of the big variables that sometimes you can control in your life. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so let's close this up. Oops, wrong. There you go. Didn't you tell me that you didn't get enough sleep before we start the show?
Yeah, I slept like a. Sorry, my brain is buffering because I want to say I slept terribly in a colorful way, but I'm trying. I promised Kristen that I would curse less, so I slept bad last night.
Oh, you already dropped the F-bomb earlier in the show, by the way.
That's true. No, I slept like a bag of smashed assholes. Just not good.
Yeah.
The Tutorizer, yeah, that one was almost a jump scare.
Yeah,
it was pretty ugly. But I didn't sleep poorly for any particular reason, which is what pisses me off. Like, if I know that there's an acute thing that's going to happen, like I'm a worrier, I have anxiety about like that kind of stuff a lot. We talked about this before. I like public speaking, and every time I have to do it, I have like the pre-show jitters for it, and I've never been able to get rid of them. But like, I didn't have anything acute going on this week. I went to bed at a time that I thought was like pretty reasonable for me. Like, I started getting in bed at like 9:45. I was in bed, you know, at a reasonable time, and then I just was like in bed, and I was just like,
well, I mean, same here, and then it's because of the one time when my alarm didn't ring. I think that has caused some. I haven't quite gone through the extinction of that.
Look at like this a lot of comment. He's just like, oh, or he or she is just like, oh yeah, it's super clear he didn't sleep well. What a roast, man.
From the mouth of babes comes the truth.
Anyway, you know,
have a nice shirt, Cameron. That makes up for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like clearly there's all these things that are outside of our life's control, right? And I can see now, as you have pointed out to me, that like my attempt to exert control makes it worse. So actually, when we were titling the show like control, I was thinking, oh no, people are gonna think that we're trying to say you need more control over your life, but we're actually saying the opposite, right? We're saying letting go of control and how hard that is.
I agree, but I also disagree. So you know the concept of like T-shaped people?
No, I know T-pose.
Yeah. Okay, so T-pose. If anyone in the chat is like into organizational like leadership or like how organizations run, definitely Google Valve employee guide. Valve is a video game company. They make Steam, the Steam Deck, Portal, all these classic games. They're kind of contentious in that like recently they haven't done a ton of like super interesting stuff. But they're famous for kind of popularizing, at least in that world, the concept of like T-shaped people. And so T-pose is like the default pose when like a character model, you know, gets created. T-shaped people are spiky. And so they have like a wide breadth of baseline competence, but there's like domains in which they're like super good. And so like, in a world where everything is like fundamentally cross-functional, in a world where like you kind of have to be exposed to a ton of different things because like everything is connected to each other now, and you kind of like need to know what happens over there to be good at over here. Like, you can't forgo the like domains of expertise that make you uniquely competent or uniquely powerful or interesting or useful. And so, Adrian, please expand on pie-shaped and comb-shaped people. I'm assuming comb-shaped is just somebody who's T-shaped in a lot of different areas, or
Yeah.
like pie is too. But I'd like to
Yeah, what
understand that
is
better.
pi? No, I'm trying to think. Is it like 3.14 or
No, it's like an arch. Pi is like an arch.
Oh, clearly
Um,
I just Googled physics and someone did.
the
Um,
Yeah, I did study physics and math, Kristen. Thanks for bringing it up. The Anyway, so like
Oh, here you go. Pi people have 2 domains they are deep in.
yeah,
Comb have many, many domains.
I think
Okay.
comb is a little bit offensive to those follically challenged of us, but I'll take it. I appreciate the comment.
Phonically challenged. Oh god. Is that what we say instead of the BALD we have to say phonically challenged
No,
now?
I'm just adding some texture. I love words and I like using different words for situations because like why not?
Those who are phonically challenged have no texture.
Rude, but accurate. All right, where were we? Control. All right, so being T-shaped or pie-shaped or comb-shaped about control is how I think about it.
Uh-huh.
Like you want to explicitly give up control in the places where it makes sense. And like
Oh,
I think
where your T line is not. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, I don't think it has to be so cut and dry as like I am T-shaped in this way, so I control XYZ thing. Although you can like know that, or
Mhm.
you can like adjust off of that. I think it's like there are some aspects of your life that your unique combination of experiences, like your natural personality, your learned personalities, where it makes sense for you to not give a shit about it. Where we like run into problems is where you're like, hey, I can't control anything. I have no agency over my life. I can't do anything about it. Like that's where I think problems come up because like most people do have control over like pieces and aspects of their life. And like leaning in on some of those would make your life better. The trick is like, what is the thing that makes a ton of sense to control for you? Like for me, controlling my morning routine
Mhm.
dramatically changes the trajectory of my day. So, like, if I wake up and my phone is right next to me and I let myself get sucked into like an algo feed for amount of time, like I get sucked into that. I spend 30, 40 minutes that I like wanted to do other things with, and then like I can bring the day back on track, but I know that like the day didn't start the way that like would set me up for better success later in the day. Um, this is kind of like a learning in public idea. Like if y'all don't know, I learn by talking a lot of the time. So I don't like fully embrace all of the things that I say. Some things I do,
Mm.
but in this case, it's kind of I'm trying to discover the aspects of myself that I want to control more while simultaneously like getting rid of the stuff or like releasing control of the things that I care about less.
Well, what I love about the morning routine type stuff is that like it's probably the one thing we have the most agency over because it's
Yeah.
technically before everything else starts if you're able
Yeah.
to wake up early enough. I think it's been tricky for me, especially on Tuesday, Thursdays, because as you know, I'm like, "Hello, everyone," like handing out flyers on the streets of social media, and
Yeah.
that like throws me off because yeah, my ideal is I will not check all the social media until my morning routine and getting all the meditation and whatever done. But in reality, that doesn't happen because I can't make the timing work.
Mm. What about the timing is tough for you to make work? Or like where do you actually answer that? And then I have another concept which I think about a lot.
So, oh, and Les, am I alive? I hope so, but if
I
not,
don't
this
know,
is great. It
man.
means OK Banger is reaching the afterlife, so this is great for our reach.
There's a
So,
good subreddit post or a Reddit post yesterday. I think it
mhm.
was yesterday. Somebody got into a car accident. They were a younger guy, like 21, and they just made a post being like, "I think I died yesterday." Uh,
Oh,
it was kind of sad reading it, but it was like a really good internet speculative post because
mhm.
it forced everybody in the comment section to confront whether they were a fictional character in this probably fictional character's life.
Yes, some of these are really more like writing prompts, but
Hundy P. But
the good ones,
what
the good ones
screws
are
up your
good.
morning?
Uh, there was a time, so in Kristen lore time, like there was a time where I would wake up at like 5:30 in the morning to meditate.
Okay,
With the
Jocko.
yes, well, Draco was like 4 a.m. or something, right?
Yeah,
Um,
4:30, I think.
4:30 maybe, yeah, and then you gotta have that photo of you dripping sweat over all your stuff. Which sometimes I wonder if he spills water because I'm like, can someone actually sweat that much? That's one of
Oh,
my
Kristen,
Jocko
we
mysteries.
we got to lift together. I'll show you some sweat.
Yeah. So but however, as you know, to wake up that early means you have to go to bed really early, and being able
Yes,
to fall asleep early is really tricky, right?
yes.
I think most people don't have issue with waking up early. Most of us have issue going to bed early enough.
Chat,
So
fact check that.
yeah. So like, so I feel like if I were to be able to wake up early, then that bit of morning is so great because it's like no one else is awake, so you really have no interruptions. And I haven't done that in a while because of the whole like falling asleep early enough thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
super
actually
real.
the evening routine that influences the morning routine.
Yeah, it's unfortunate how those systems interact with each other sometimes. Like I literally had this thought on Saturday night because I stayed up too late. Not too late. I stayed up exactly the amount I wanted to, which is
Mhm.
more than would help me get up in the morning. But
Yeah.
I
See,
realized
fact check, big facts.
big facts, one way or the other. But so I realized I love 5 a.m.
hmm
and I love 2 a.m. That's a
Uh,
problem.
like you have stayed up till 2 a.m. Is that what it
Correct.
is?
Yeah.
Oh, what were you
Like
doing?
fucking around. Like I
What is that? What is that? I can tell you what I'm usually doing when I'm up at 2 a.m.
so I mean, some of it is like content, but other parts is like I'm
Content.
just like coding or like consuming content. Um, because
Oh.
like I love
Oh yeah.
I love media.
Noticed
Like we've talked about this, but like I love stories. I
Mhm.
love the fact that like anytime anybody creates anything for somebody else to consume, it's just like the equivalent of being in, 2000 BC around a campfire and the elder telling a story to you. Like the same folklore tradition that we used to have, like the oral tradition, exists today, except it's just TikToks. And I think that's beautiful. Thanks.
So, like, what, you make it sound so, like, poetic, but I'm imagining you doom scrolling some stupid stuff on TikTok
So
at
that's
2 AM.
usually on that's usually on weeknights. Weeknights are doom scrolling. Weekend
Uh-huh.
is beauty of the universe scrolling.
Oh,
The
okay, gosh, maybe you should curate some feeds for us of this beauty of the universe stuff.
a little sneak peek of some of the probably rabbit holes that are going to ruin my life, but I would like to explore with Seymour is curating feeds extremely easily for other people. Like I think the concept of spinning up a Seymour page, which is focused on rich media previews of stuff,
Mhm.
works really, really well if you can connect bookmarks that people already have and you make
Ooh.
the moment of, oh, I'd like to save this
Mhm.
seamless. It's very
Mm.
hard because you save things on other platforms like your TikTok bookmarks and stuff. But I think you can access that stuff via API, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so like
Will
the
they like
idea
Ooh, that would be so awesome. I have so many Instagram reel bookmarks of
that
restaurants that
yeah,
are so impossible to search.
like there's list websites that kind of exist out there. There's like
Mhm,
bookmark explorers, they're like Notion templates and things, but like none of those do
mhm,
the thing that I would like for it to do, which is like when I have the impulse of like saving, I also
mhm,
kind of have the impulse of sharing because I want to like spread my taste to other people that find it interesting.
mhm.
And so I'm exploring that, but we got to get like the front end stuff done first. Anyway, so the beauty scrolling, sometimes like I get caught in like the fucking human carnage loop because it's unavoidable on a lot of the platforms now. And usually I shut the app when that starts happening.
Mhm.
The tutorizer, you're right. Platform APIs do suck, but that's why we've built a ton of scraping infrastructure for Seymour to do it without their permission. So one of the things that I'm exploring, actually, chat, if you can give some micro feedback, text to save. So you text a number, a link, and then it saves it to your page or your feed or like your See More queue
Ooh.
is what we're calling it. I'm
Oh,
exploring that right now. Is that useful to you,
God,
Kristen?
100%.
Okay, good to know. Because like every platform lets you text people. You not every, but usually they do. So
Oh,
exploring that.
because they want you to share, so they make
Correct.
it easier.
Sharing is like one of the number one modern social media metrics that like consumer social apps track.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, we've
Oh, wait, we
gone a
haven't
little bit
talked
off
about
the.
scraping one way. So one of the questions that I wanted us to chat about is like control over your content as someone who puts things
Yeah,
out online.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
as you know, in a place that we hang out, like right now, it's a very bizarre situation where the channel moderator or owner inadvertently controls whether your stuff is visible. And this
Yeah.
was suddenly granted. And I feel like this like mine as someone who posts in other people's channels and someone who owns a channel, because I was like immediately scrambling to be like, how can I make everyone who's posted like their stuff visible? Because you
Yeah.
spend your time doing that. Like I should not control who sees it or who doesn't. And then also like myself, I was I already had an existential crisis last week where I
Yes.
felt like as I am putting more and more stuff on the internet, like it's starting to get outside of my control. Like I'm not owning my own content. Whereas the best
Yeah.
practice for most creators is you put everything in your own repository, your own website, so that there's no algorithmic control visibility, and
Hmm.
then you syndicate it out to the platform so that other people can see it through like distributive algorithms. And that's the best practice. But yet it is so hard to do that when every day I'm scrambling to put stuff out.
Okay. Couple like threads in there. One of the big ones is a Jay Klaus line of thinking where there's like relationship platforms and distribution platforms, right? Like email is a relationship platform because you own that one-to-one, and
Yep.
you know this. Chat might not know this. Your own website can be one-to-one relationship platform, but places like TikTok and Twitter and Farcaster, they're generally distribution platforms where like they're commercials for your core stuff, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And there's but within that, there's different kinds of control. So like the kind of control that you've been talking about a lot, I think is, hey, I literally want to control that this thing exists in a space that like nobody can really touch, right?
Yes. Like actually it's very
Like
funny. I think I told you something like I want my own Library of Alexandria. And I was
yes,
like, later I was like, wait, I think that library was burned down. That's why it was so famous.
it was.
I thought, wow, what a terrible analogy. What I was actually trying to say.
I think it's a good analogy because there is no there are very few places on the internet where stuff is permanent. Even your own website, you can get like blocked by ISPs. Even the globally distributed virtual machine of blockchain stuff, IPFS and all those kind of stuff. Like if somebody takes a bat to every single computer that is running an Ethereum node, guess what? Your stuff does go away probably. Well, I don't know. We haven't tested it. That's why I think that there should be a lot more efforts to like throw a bunch of servers in like Patagonia and other really remote places across the world to make that stuff a little bit more robust. But that's besides the point.
I think that's a good business idea.
Ooh, what was that? You cut out for me for a second?
Oh, that's a good business idea, starting data centers in remote places.
I don't know if it's a good idea. I think it's a fun idea. I don't know how you'd make money. Control. So controlling where your stuff lives is like it's like the resultant desire from fear of deplatforming, correct?
Correct. And I want to pull up this Tutorize account. My Tumblr has been running for 20 years. Tumblr is permanent. I don't think I could have guessed that.
Tumblr almost went out of business not too long ago.
But it's still like tumbling along. So I'm very impressed by Tumblr.
Yeah. They have not died yet. The challenge of having this like repository of stuff that other people can't touch, or at least they can't touch a lot more, is the same struggle between accessibility and security that people have with like their finances and secrets. The more secure you make stuff, the less accessible it is. right? Like I can bury a bag full of money in my backyard. I have not done that. Please don't dig up my backyard. But you can bury a bag full of money in your backyard. If you bury it 20 feet deep, it's pretty hard to get to that bag. If you bury it 2 feet deep, it's a lot easier to,
Well,
but it's
like,
less
I
secure.
think you're thinking that I'm hoping to put everything in a vault, and that's not what I mean. It's almost like
Mhm.
I wish that, I own my own copy in the
Yes.
sense that everything is in one place, but I also want it to be in as many places as possible because, of the idea of like archival and everything, like cloud
Yeah.
archive.
Yeah. I mean, like, I, in the aspect of like a creator's goals, that is obviously a thing that everybody wants to do. It's just kind of like we are people with limited time, resources, and reach. Like that's not a thing that works in the way that people build distribution on the internet today. And that's why we like get into discussion so much of the time.
But the ideal, I also feel like there's also certain. Do you have friends who are like essentially like cyberians, like cyber
Lo-
librarians, who
like
like are,
organizers of links and stuff.
yeah, and they have these like giant obsidian or like other kind of like second brain things, and then they are like every time they attend a Zoom thing, they are like recording everything. They oftentimes this personality is opposite of a creator. They don't like to
Yep.
share, but they're really good at like archiving everything, and I always admire that part.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like admire isn't the right word for me. I understand it. Like I've done my Zettelcast in, rabbit holes as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And I used to be good at it, like, labeling all my like CDs, like when you're iTunes, I'm not labeled properly and use Music Brains to make sure that the metadata is correct. That's what I did before the internet.
so I think that's a really interesting commentary on control.
Mhm.
And I would challenge like what the end goal is. Because kind of like what we talked about is sometimes the impulse to organize isn't really about doing something better. It's about feeling good about the thing that you are like
Oh,
manipulating.
100%. Yes, so control is 100% about achieving a feeling.
I think it's really important for people that are doing this unconsciously to shift to doing it consciously. Because I've seen really, really
Oh,
competent people.
and Kristen.
We're not we're not naming names, not yet. We haven't turned into a gossip podcast. But
Yeah.
the
Is it a gossip podcast? I'm literally right here.
yeah, Yenny Riley, there are I'm gonna say hundreds of thousands of people like this still. The and but like the reason why, like, so in
I like
general,
the
I'm a
name Cryptarchs.
yeah,
I
that's pretty
like
good.
it.
The like I'm I mean, I think I'll be so bold as to say we are advocates for doing things consciously and deliberately, because the way you get into spots where you're like, what the heck is happening to me? Like, why am I getting this outcome? I found to be a lot of the time the result of not making a deliberate decision about how you're spending your time or how you are acting in the time that you have. Um, there's nothing wrong with organizing stuff for the sake of organizing stuff. I think especially, if you're using it as like a form of meditation, or it's like an activity that you're using to
That you
feel
enjoy.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. If you do it and then wonder why you're not achieving your non-organizationally related goals, that's a problem because you are not living the way that you've like rationally said that you want to live. Like you're living at odds with the goals that you've said that you want to achieve.
Mhm.
There's another aspect of control here about content that we haven't talked about yet, though.
Oh, what is it?
Who gets to look at your content and talk about it and opine about it and remix it and share it?
Ooh, that's a great one. So recently, I saw a certain former president post something about what's happening in the world, and immediately there are like comments. Of course, it's on Twitter, like
Yep.
like panning what that person said, and then I thought, wow, this is so weird. Like we have discourse between someone who's the leader of a country and some random person like on the street, and of course,
Yep.
like, every citizen should have their opinion, but it's just also strange in that like I feel like better discourse is made by people who are informed, like, at the same
Yeah.
level.
Yep.
And we're in a world where everybody can say anything.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so there's like a thread of like free speech does
Mhm,
not necessarily mean useful speech. Like I
mhm,
agree. Like as an American raised in the USA, like I do think people like should be allowed to say the things that they want to say.
mhm,
Generally, if the things that you want to say incite violence, I'm not on your side.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean I don't think you shouldn't be allowed to say that. That said, the aspects of free speech that people confuse is like just because you can say something doesn't mean you also deserve a platform to say it from. Like nobody is owed anybody else's attention, in my opinion, and that like we miss that a lot. The aspect of control about content that like I really want to get your comment on is I saw a post maybe like 2-3 years ago now,
Mhm.
and somebody basically said once your post gets more than, a certain amount of views, it's no longer your post. It's the internet's post to do what it wants with it.
Oh, that reminds me of what Jack White said when someone asked him about the Seven Nation Army song.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
he
Yeah. Yeah.
was like, like now people have this other like stadium sports way of singing it or something. And
Yeah. It's
then the
like a soccer
reporter was
chant.
like, yeah, and then the reporter was like, what do you think? Like, of people like changing the meaning of your song this way. And he was like, oh, I love it because it means it has become folk music where you no longer really
Oh, I love
remember
that.
what's the origin of that. And he's like, it's part of the part, it's everyone's now. And I
I
was like,
love
oh,
that.
that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a nightmare dystopian version of that, which we see every day, where somebody
Oh,
says
like the
something.
soothing.
I mean, like you can just say like some sort of sentence that gets clipped out of context, and now you're the Nazi apologist or something like that. So
Mhm.
I'm sorry for saying the word that's going to get us algorithmically crushed. Ugh.
Oh my
All right,
god,
I
yeah.
got
Wait a minute.
whatever.
Well,
Um,
I think the chat there should be like a count of like how long it takes before
yeah,
we break or I don't know, follow Godwin's law.
yeah. We'll probably do. It probably makes sense to do like a swear jar or something, and we just have like a counter when we get little widgets in Streamyard. All right. That was Dowlia said that they like paper record keeping and planning. Me too. I am now testing out putting all of my daily activities on note cards. I used to do this. I got tired of it, and now I'm bringing it back because I just need more tactile ways to win. Do you know that
Mhm.
feeling?
Yes, I also go through my phases of like I'm gonna use my physical stationery and then I'm gonna write things down and then I'm gonna be less distracted.
I I also kicked back off this week my elementary school style grading system of like when I complete a task, I get a little gem.
Oh, wait, what are those made of? What
Plastic. I
gummy?
got like $4 on Amazon.
Oh.
They're like vase filler material.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep.
So you want that like loop of
I
completion.
I'm testing it because like, sometimes the dopamine loops really work. Like I was a video game kid. If you build the right sinks and faucets for goals and rewards, you can get me to spend 12 hours like grinding so I can get like an imaginary digital sword or something like that. So like
Mm,
I'm trying to like bring aspects of that to my life, which I've done at various points. But I really need to kind of like get some crap done over the next few weeks. So I'm like trying to lock in with those reward systems.
okay.
Can you really have control of your creation as you put it out there? I think Bowie had a similar quote. What do you think, Kristen?
So I think in the age of AI scraping, etc., like I keep coming back to this idea of like, can we weave our personal story within the content we put out such that like it becomes almost like a fingerprint or watermark or something? It's
Like
sort of like
inseparable?
yeah, exactly. So therefore, there will always be a part of you in the content and you can't take it out. Of course, I feel like this is really like, tricky, right? But like I feel like the art of it is to be able to like your life becomes art sort of thing. Not in like a narcissistic, I gotta be everywhere that my content is kind of way, but like to imbue meaning in a world where meaning is stripped away.
We kind of have come full circle back to getting a phenomenon on the internet named after you.
Oh. But like, oh, well, okay, that would be neat. I'm not even sure if this is an original idea.
I mean, no ideas are original because like bajillions of people have lived before, and who knows what the Roman peasant like thought of? You know what I mean?
Right. But this is something I'm obsessed about, and it's so hard, right? Because even as I've been putting out, like, so on this channel, you also see me putting out these like 2-3 minute like how to sort of videos.
Go watch those, by the way.
Yes, thank you for watching those. Like, I feel like because of the short format, I sometimes am a bit hypocritical because I don't have enough time to tell my story, and it's a little bit too like how to do without saying why. And I think that's also what I'm sensing is maybe what you and I can work on, you know?
Well, so I understand that like impulse and that gut reaction to not being able to bring the nuance you'd like to bring to any particular anecdote, right? Like in the we had this whole deep conversation off stream one time about like it's not like an attention like it's not that there's an attention problem on short form platforms, although there probably is. It's like a value communication problem because like once somebody believes the thing that they're about to watch is going to bring them value, like even unconsciously, like they might watch it for the next 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Right. If it solves their problem.
Yeah, it's like like attention span isn't the only thing at play here. And so like there's that aspect of it, but like what you're really saying, I think, is I would like to be able to explain the odyssey of my life. And the odyssey is just one type of like medium in which to tell your story. Like if like I really like the study of, I mean, like I was bringing this up earlier, I really like the study of folklore and tradition and how we used to tell stories because it used to be like shamans or like, you know, like there were people that were the storytellers, and it kind of like glossed over the fact that everybody can tell their story. It just takes practice. And so I think some things deserve and need the Odyssey style format of communication, but I think a lot of things, especially throughout human history, like were bite-sized TikTok versions of an important lesson. And like time spans are different or whatever, but like I don't think it's necessarily like worse or has less value because it's not as nuanced as it could be.
So
this is me saying, Kristen, like chill out, you're doing a good job.
Speaking though, like because you are given, it's almost like everyone's given an audition of like 3 seconds.
Yes.
To catch someone's attention these days.
Yeah.
Like that means that you do need to do the dopamine increasing thing for like 3 seconds, and then you get like a few more seconds to demonstrate value. Like, not to sound like the Genesis system or something, but like.
So like I think that's
tricky.
So that's true in a slice. But I've been like reflecting on how I've consumed content over my life. And I realize that that is how you get the person that has never seen you before to pay attention the first time. The way that I've started to follow new creators is it takes multiple touch points for me to like stop and watch a short. And so like I'll see the same person show up in my feed like 2, 3, 4, 10 times.
Right.
And then maybe on the 9th one, I'll be like, oh, I've seen this person a couple times. Like I liked the initial 3 seconds, but I didn't stay to watch the full thing on the other ones. Like I think we're kind of toxically ignoring the fact that relationships in whatever like way you want to describe them take time to build. And so like, yes, if you want to get the fastest path from like 0 to everybody in the world watching you, you do have to front load dopamine Mr. Beast style aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's a lot of other ways to reach people with the things that you're trying to say that don't have to index on that as much. I also think that there's a thread that's connected with this in terms of like people looking for community a lot more than they did.
Yeah.
So that it's like an unformed thought that I have. Like I'm still developing that, but does that impact you in any way?
I agree. I think like content in the absence of relationships is gonna be devalued because relationships become the only uh limited, it's almost like a currency, right? Because it has a
Yep.
limited supply from each person, whereas AI can generate like infinite content, and it can also give you infinite like relationships. So
Yep.
therefore, like the only thing left that's valuable that we can ourselves generate is the relationship, times content.
Yeah. I mean, like relationships bootstrap trust, basically. Like that's what we're trying to get at when we are
Right.
interacting with people like via asynchronous content or synchronous chat like here.
Mhm.
And so like
So I think that's where it's kind of tricky, right? Because if we, oh yeah, and Prof says 7 times before. I also often take this 7 times average.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but then, like, for example, in YouTube, where we're trying to grow, this has been the trickiest thing, right? Because relationships in YouTube are kind of like more one way compared to the other platforms.
Can you say more on that?
Like, there's much more of a difference between stage and audience, whereas in like Twitter, Farcaster, that kind of thing, you're much more on a egalitarian footing to start.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it's a lot easier for you to like reply on Twitter and reply on Farcaster, whereas on YouTube, like the behavior, including myself, is that when I'm watching something, I rarely ever comment. So therefore, like the relationship becomes much more like parasocial, because you're watching someone go on and on about their life, and you think you're getting to know them, and it's a very different kind of dynamic that happens.
I get what you're saying. I don't know if I like buy it though, because like I feel like these other platforms, like Farcaster, Warpcast, is in a different class because it's so small. It doesn't have the same platform dynamics as the other ones.
Mhm.
But like even in the glory day, I mean, like maybe in the glory days of the Bird app, it was a lot flatter because you could like reach an expert of some kind.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that like throws a wrench in it is like the dynamics of TikTok comment sections
Mhm.
and in short form video comment sections where they're like basically repositories for bits and public tagging of other people.
Mhm.
Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, 100%. I look at the comments for some of these short form video style. I'm like the gold is in the comments.
Yeah, like some of the funniest things I've ever read are in the comment sections on already funny pieces of content.
Mhm.
I think you said this like creator audiences grow to basically be a reflection of the creator themselves.
Mhm.
And but like we know from the data of like VidCon, YouTube creators versus TikTok creators, or at least YouTube long form creators versus TikTok creators, that like YouTube long form creators get more people into a room. And that's like a proxy for better community dynamics, or at least like more avid fan bases.
Mhm.
The challenge of like control, like the aspect of control in that is like, if you have a more avid fan base, I think you have aspects of control over that fan base, but you also lose control in a meaningful way because like they can maybe not at the drop of a hat, but like they have opinions and thoughts and they're like, free human beings with agency too. And
Mhm.
like what you want to do on the internet can sometimes become what they want you to do on the internet.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that
So
like
there's like an audience capture control issue once you get to a certain point.
yeah, it's like there's a certain level of parasociality that turns into a we'll call it a not quite hostage negotiation.
Yikes.
I mean, like, it's gotta make it vivid for the clips, but like I also think it's like pretty real. Um because if the core aspect of your fan base, or like the core group of your fan base,
Mhm.
wants you to do something or to stop doing something, or to like or like they react to a change that you make in their format that they really care about, they're going to let you know. Like
Mhm.
there's whole fandom websites dedicated to these communities. And it's just like fascinating to think about like the level of control that's like optimal for a creator. Like changes on the person, of course, but like where do you think that lands?
Mm. I think this is where you and I haven't really explicitly talked about it, but then the
Mm-mm.
people I admire the most and are also most frustrated by are the intrinsically motivated creator. like
Okay.
like
Can you say more?
the so I have some friends, and also I'm so impressed by the number of people who like are experts at content creation who are in the chat too.
Yeah, we
Like,
love y'all.
yeah, so I have some friends who like have been so steady this entire time and like writing and putting out content, but they are completely not audience captured.
Yeah.
So, however, it also makes them not grow really fast. Like you may not even know of who they are, but then they've
Yeah.
been like steadily doing this whole time because they are really doing it for their own pleasure, their own clarifying their thinking, etc. And
Hmm.
that is actually who I aspire to be, but
Yeah.
because of the pressure I put on myself, I feel like that's where you can see there's like two Kristens who are talking to you who give you opposing goals.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and it's
There
like
is.
and Adrian, yes, I am also a Gemini. So therefore like that like creates this conflict of control, right? It's like
Yeah.
if I was not bothered, then these control issues would not bother me.
Is there wh- what one what about the intrinsic motivation gets you like excited? Or like what about it is appealing to you?
You will not what appears to me is that you will not have the bad feeling, the bad feeling.
The uh-oh feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because then you're not, it has to do with, again, the control is about my attempt control over having good feelings and avoiding bad feelings, which is the I understand is the core of the issue, right?
So saying that back to you, you are trying to achieve some level of emotional regulation by excising this aspect of yourself that you don't like.
Correct, which has the complete opposite effect because it
Yeah.
ends up being that I am like yanked by my attempt to control the feelings, which itself becomes out of control. And I'm like,
I so, so I have like strong feelings about feelings.
hmm
I think that there's like obviously there's people way more qualified than me to talk about feelings. You being one of them, frankly. Uh
ha.
but the but like the thing about feelings which I find really interesting, which men in general aren't really socialized to think about, or at least they weren't previously. I think it's a little bit better, like people coming up today, is that like your feelings aren't the same thing as like the action you take after them. And it's like really hard to like catch the moment of like, hey, this feeling I'm having is valid because it's like in your body, it's an emotional response to like whatever the
Mhm,
situation that you're in.
mhm,
But then also you have to reconcile that with the you that exists after you have this feeling.
mhm,
And unless you want to give up agency in your life, which is like, I don't think is the best way to move through the world. Like you also have to like react in a way that is situationally appropriate, in line with your values, and also respectful of like the people around you. And so
mhm.
like a classic like man response, or at least out of history, is just like you get mad, you break stuff. Like that's like a tale as old as time. That's not okay, in many circumstances. And so like figuring out how to process like a feeling of anger, which is sometimes like a rational feeling to have in that moment, without it being in control of you in the next little bit, is like
Mhm.
this like really hard multifaceted problem that like just frankly requires a ton of understanding with everybody around you.
But I
or
feel
you
like
can.
some of that, even just that whole anger
Yep.
breaking stuff is already morphed, right? Like
Yes.
now there are like these like breaking stuff rooms that you can
Yeah, but
pay for
that's
to break stuff, and it's seen, especially as a woman. I feel like we don't break stuff enough.
I agree.
Like, like, I feel like that a lot of my anxiety is suppressed anger. I need to express that more. So I feel like there is something that's changed in this whole dynamic, at least in the last few years.
Yeah, I kind of bucket that stuff. I think it's like a not different. It's a related problem where like there's proximal emotions and response, and then there's kind of like longitudinal ones, right? Like
Mhm.
if you are carrying some sort of frustration in you, like that
Mhm.
can be a cathartic event, is like going to break stuff.
Right.
If something happens to you right now and you feel angry, a break room doesn't help that. And like, maybe it like can help you reduce the level of ambient frustration you have in your life. I don't know. I lift instead of break things because I mean, I guess that's breaking your muscles in a way.
Yeah.
Um,
Micro tears.
yeah. But like I find it really interesting how our responses to controlling emotions like really changes depending on the type of emotion that is being expressed or not expressed in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like
and
there's
I feel like to wrap things up, like my takeaway is that like the control is rarely about the situation. It's always like some attempt within me to control how I feel. Therefore, that's where the whole action that I will take based on that mismatches because I'm controlling how I feel, which doesn't actually address the root issue of what I try to solve.
so
And
what's
also
the
why
answer?
some actions never feel satisfying.
Is the answer to feel the feeling and do a different action? Is the answer to control the feeling? The
Well,
one
that does
answer,
not control the feelings. That does not work, as you can see.
yeah. I The expression of emotion is a really interesting problem. Not inherently a problem, but like there are a lot of things that you feel in any given moment that like it's not going to be productive for you to express it in the way that you would maybe naturally express it. One way that I like try to reconcile it, I mean, like obviously I intellectualize everything in my life, right? Like instead of feeling it, I like look at it over there and then maybe process it at some point, which isn't necessarily healthy.
Mhm.
The Hold on, this is an interesting comment. I think sleeping suppresses anger or just call someone, I mean, like, I don't think, can you call somebody when you're angry and have a good conversation, Kristen?
Uh,
Like,
mm,
actually pissed, not like, "Oh, I'm frustrated."
here's the thing. I'm like trying to think when was the last time I was actually pissed? Like
Hmm.
that's the thing. I'm much more like frustrated at myself most of the time. And as you've experienced, not a great time to talk to me because I'm not thinking very rationally when I do
I
that.
think it's a great time to talk to you. Just because like, you aren't thinking the way that you wanna think doesn't mean it's worse to talk to you.
Mhm. So again, I feel like the whole feelings management situation is something I'm trying to move away from. I'm trying to like actually feel the feelings rather than trying to suppress or to otherwise run away from them or even to take action to alleviate the feeling, which I think has been the most biggest misdirection of all.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's interesting. I think that there are definitely circumstances where, like, acting explicitly based on the thing that you're feeling can improve it. Um, but to your point, like there are plenty of times where like the processing of the emotion is not going to be improved by doing whatever you're thinking about doing.
Mhm. Yeah, like, there's, like, 2 separate paths. There is, like, addressing the feeling, and then there is, like, doing the task, and then, like, when I mingle them together, that's where things get a bit messed up.
Yeah,
Like,
you
the
definitely.
whole, like, organizing files thing, right, or organizing my content thing, it's clearly to satisfy the feeling of, like, "Oh, I didn't explain something well enough, and therefore it's because I don't have this thing, within access," or something like that, which,
Yeah,
you know
I mean, however you like the royal you, like however like that person, like whatever they need to do for the next 10 minutes to kind of like get to a point where they can think about the thing that they're feeling in like
Mhm,
a, we'll say like more useful way to them. I
mhm.
think they it probably makes sense for them to do. So if that's like
Right.
organizing your files,
I think that there's also like another aspect which we'll talk about in the next episode or something like that. It has to do with like there is an intuition that is also tied with feeling. Like, like the vibes are off, like there's a
yeah,
gut feeling, like those are real. But I
yeah.
think it's like understanding what that is and how we can like surface that better without getting too swept up in certain feelings, I think is the key.
Yeah, for me, and then maybe this is useful for the guys out there, like there are moments in hard conversations where like I'm not going to be a productive partner. I'm not like abusive about it. I'm just pissed. And so for me, I got to leave the room for 10, 15 minutes and do something else. Like, and it's not like I would like to be able to be like, "Oh no, you're pissed right now." Like readjust how you're thinking about a conversation. But
Mhm.
that's just not how I work. And so like, or at least not how I work today. And so like, as Prof is pointing out in the comments, like recognizing those things, and the only way that I recognize when I'm doing that kind of behavior is like, have I listened to the person for the last like few minutes in
Mhm.
order to respond to them, or have I listened to them to listen to them? Like if I catch myself doing that, I'm like, oh, I need to like remove myself for a little bit before I can actually improve or like actually work towards the common goal that we have in that conversation.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna play us off. Please read
I'm gonna
everyone's.
pull this. I'm gonna pull this up for everyone while we're heading out here. This is what we're trying to do with OK Banger.
Oh,
Some combination
oh, there you go.
of the stuff we want to do and the stuff that'll help us grow. So thank you all for sticking around all the way to the end today.
Yeah, thank you. Knowledge Professor, Tutorizer, Curious Hermit, Doja, Beyond Illusion.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
Riley.
Riley. Yeah, Yenny Riley, which is a variation of Riley. I was like, wow.